Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be doing a quick little book review of Fatal Secrets, and this is one of my point horror books. It was written by Ricky Tankersley-Cusick. I probably butchered that name. I'm just going to put it up here so that you can see it. It's a beautiful cover to this book. I've been trying to get through all of my point horror books this past few months, and yeah, so I've just got a few things to talk about. First off, I really enjoyed this book. I bought it a while back. I normally buy my point horror books in like job lots, and I've been meaning to get round to them. So this one was published in first published in the US in 1992 and first published in UK by Scholastics in 1995. So I was 5 when this first came out, and yeah, it was £2.50. I don't think £3.50. Sorry, I don't think you can really get books that cheap anymore. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It revolves around 2 sisters, and very early on in the book one of the sisters dies, and it's very tragic. Her whole family is kind of struggling to cope with it. Obviously her sister, who was there when the incident happened, and the mother, they're not coping with it very well. The sister feels a lot of guilt around what happens, even though it's not really her fault. And as the story goes on, it kind of revolves around this sister, Ryan, and it's her interactions with her family and friends and kind of what's going on, how she's coping with it or how she's not really coping with it. And things, as the story progresses, things, you know, come up in the story where some things aren't really making sense around her sister Melissa's death, and they never found the body, and she doesn't really know kind of what's happening. And then she's kind of starting to be haunted by visions of her dead sister, and, you know, having panic attacks and creepy things happening to her, and she's not sure whether it's just in her mind and this is her mind trying to cope with all the stress of everything that's going on, or whether it's really happening to her and something really, you know, someone really is out for her, because she starts feeling like she's been watched and attacked in certain ways, and you're never really sure until later in the book what's actually going on, whether it is in her mind or whether it's reality. And I thought it was a very intense book. It was quite fast paced. You really did feel bad for her. I felt bad for her in the fact that her family life, like her mother really isn't looking after her very well. She's kind of, and of course she's grieving for her daughter, so, you know, she has a right to be a little bit selfish in that sense, but at the same time, you know, she's just kind of abandoned Ryan to deal with things on her own. And her friends also come across as quite selfish. Her main friend, her best friend, Phoebe, in this book kind of pops in and out, but I mean, this book's only set, I think it's like a month after her sister's death, which really isn't that long of a time to be like grieving. And her friend Phoebe's trying to get her out to go partying and like talking about boys all the time and talking about herself, and she's quite self-centered as a friend. And I kind of didn't really like her in this story. I feel like her friends were not very supportive. You know, her friend's brother was quite supportive, and there's a couple of other characters that listened to her along the way and, you know, really pay any kind of attention to her. But overall, she just kind of seems like a very lonely character trying to deal with the grief of her sister, and she's not coping very well, and she's struggling a little bit. So she comes across as a bit bratty in some places, but I can kind of see where it comes from. I think her character is written quite well, and it's quite realistic, the feelings that she would be going through, and, you know, the different stages of grief, and also all these horrifying things happening to her and people not believing her, and they're like, just, oh, it's all in your head, you know, you're just stressed out and all that kind of stuff. And some of the things that are happening to her are a bit unbelievable, but at the same time you'd think you'd give her a little bit more of leeway, rather than just saying, oh, you know, you're just crazy kind of a thing. So I really enjoyed this book, like I do all my point horror books. Point horror books are some of my favourite horror. I enjoy collecting them and reading them. And this is definitely up there. Because it's set around Christmas time, I actually think this would be, if you're into horror, this would be a good time to read in the winter months. Obviously it's just coming into spring and summer now here in England, so it was a little bit out of place for me to be reading this on my balcony, sunbathing in the sun whilst reading about the cold, you know, this cold woodsy wintry environment. So, but I really enjoyed it. I think this is definitely up there in the point horror books for me. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. I think this is the first point horror book I've read by this author. I have a couple more books by him, but I don't think I've read them yet. The main ones I've read in the point horror series are from R.L. Stine and Diane Ho, which I really like. So yeah, and it's just a beautiful book. I love the like ombre colours of like the purple, and then it goes on to the blue with the ice and the red ribbon. So yeah, I'll show you the back in case you want to pause and read it. Let me move my face out the way. So yeah, that's kind of what the back says. And yeah, overall this is a big thumbs up for me. Good horror read, a nice distraction. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you have any point horror recommendations for me, leave them down below. Or any horror recommendations, leave them down below. And I'll check them out. And yeah, also any questions. And if you'd like to see more point horror book reviews, then please subscribe and give me a like. And thank you for watching. As always, until next time, bye guys.